All right, hi everybody, John Meadows here, and it looks like that you're enjoying this little 3-tip series, 3 simple tips. We've done one now for chest, one for biceps, and the feedback has been really good, so I wanted to continue along with that. And today I wanted to do 3 tips for triceps. Now, these tips are meant to be very simple, something that anybody can apply at any time in the gym. Not meant to make you think real hard, they're just meant to be really, really simple. So without further ado, let's cover our 3 tips for triceps. Okay, number 1, this is the first thing that pops into my mind when I think about triceps. You will never ever have good triceps if your elbows are always injured. So I am a huge, huge believer in doing exercises that kind of are really hard on your elbows last in your tricep workout. So what exercises would that be? That would be like a lying skull crusher, or it would be like holding a real heavy dumbbell overhead and doing an extension like that, or even an old French press, or even old easy bar curl. Those lying extension type exercises tend to be really hard on your elbows when you start off with them. Many people learn that the hard way. When I was younger, I would go into the gym and I would see all these guys doing crazy heavy skull crushers, and I thought, cool, I want to be able to do that. So that's the path I pursued initially. And then I always had swollen elbows. My elbows always hurt. I always had problems with my elbows until one day I said, you know what, this isn't very smart. So this isn't an exercise tip in itself, but if you just take the lying extensions, the skull crushers, the overhead extensions, if you just take those and you move them to later on in the workout, that alone is going to give you a much better chance of having awesome triceps because your elbows will be healthy. So that's far and away the most important tip I think I can give you for triceps. Tip number 2. Get an awesome training partner. Actually, so tip number 2, if you look at a lot of tricep videos, they'll tell you to work the long head of your tricep a lot. That's this part right here. That's the inside. And anybody who tells you that, they're absolutely correct. That makes up a large part of your tricep. Some people say 2/3. I don't know exactly how much your tricep it makes up, but it is a large part of your tricep, this long head. So what I would like for you to do is I want you to spend a little bit more time focused on that part of your tricep than other parts of your tricep. So if you're going to do, 4 exercises, make 3 of them, or 2 of them for that part of your tricep. If you're going to do 3 exercises, make 2 of them. My general point is just to put a little bit more emphasis on that long head. So how do you do that? Now, what a lot of people will tell you is that muscle attaches a little differently than the other parts of your tricep, which is the lateral head here and the medial head in here. And they'll tell you that it attaches up in here somewhere, and they're correct, it does. So what people will tell you is they'll say, make sure you're doing movements where you really stretch up here. And that's correct. You want to do that to really stretch that muscle belly. And remember, training muscles from a stretch position is really beneficial. But then the other thing you can do to really hit that tricep is you got to really get it into a contracted position. The way you do that is just like we did with the rope push downs. So like you get the dual ropes, and if you have one rope, you can, you only come to here. But if you have the dual ropes, then you can get the arm all the way back into extension back here, which really is a great contraction here. So the second tip would be make sure you put 2 exercises in your routine where you're getting real far back into extension and then also getting into a really good stretch. You don't have to stand up and do something. You could lay down and do like a skull crusher, and then rotate your elbow back and stretch, something like that. And remember what tip number 1 was. It was don't do that first, all right? So do some push downs, do some other work, and then mix in variations of these 2 exercises to really thicken up the inner head of your tricep, and that'll give you a lot of bang for your buck there. That's tip number 2. Okay, tip number 3. Actually, this one makes me think of your dad. Those of you who don't know, this is James Bowman. His dad used to train me. He punished me, man. So tell him I still remember that. So don't forget the medial head of your tricep. So that's this part in here. Now, what made me think about your dad was when I joined World Gym back when I was in my early 20s, the guys there, they did what you do. They did powerlifting and bodybuilding. James does powerlifting and bodybuilding. And these guys all, like when they bent their arms, they had these huge, thick triceps down here. They all had that like mass around their arms. And I always thought, man, that's impressive. And then when I went over to Westside Barbell, those guys, Kenny and all those guys, Patterson, George, they all had that monster thick medial head down here.
Rolling in.
Just thick. And I always thought, man, that is impressive. It's kind of like, how this muscle makes your arm look really impressive. Like I think the same thing right here. Like You see somebody has that big, thick arm right there.
And they're pressing.
Really impressive. It's a dense, thick look. So how do you train that? Well, normally that muscle will help out a lot with extension. So one of the things that we did over West Side, which I really like, is pin presses. Right? So you know how we set the bars up and we do literally just pin and lock out, because that's what that muscle does. It helps a lot with your lockout.
Right.
So make sure you incorporate some kind of pin pressing. You could do a floor press. It'd be same concept.
Yeah.
Floor press.
Just bring it in.
But just come up and just lock out and flex. Don't snap your elbows. Just come up and flex. And the other thing too is you can also rotate that in with, remember the old JM presses?
Yeah.
So come down, it's almost like a lying extension. Come down like to your neck and then do the extension up. Those JM presses stretch that medial head out. So when you get into here, it's kind of like those tricep kickouts we did today.
Yeah.
Remember, instead of going like this, we actually came in here,
yeah.
and that actually puts a nice stretch on it right there too. So tip number 3 is I like for people to don't forget the medial head of your tricep. Don't forget that. And the way to work that, you can do some pin presses, or you could do some JM type lying extensions as well. So I think if you sequence your exercise accordingly to keep your elbows healthy, place a little extra emphasis on the long head of your tricep, and don't forget the medial head of your tricep. If you just do those 3 things, I think that'll really, really help your triceps out.